Hey everybody, welcome to Hockeybar. It is trade deadline day. It's a busy day, and we've been looking forward to this day. We have a long list of things to get through, so let's get started. So our trade deadline coverage is right here, highlighting the highest in prestige of the trades. So recently, the Predators acquired Mikael Granlund, who's been on the Wild for a couple years, and Fiala has now been traded to the Wild. He's another player that's been on the Predators for a while. Predators needing to make space, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then our second trade, kind of a weird one. I don't think everybody expected Tanner Pearson or Goodbranson to be on the chop block. But both of them are traded. The Penguins and Canucks made a deal, sending Goodbranson to Pittsburgh, and Pearson to Vancouver. I don't know if any contract disputes or lack thereof a contract with these two, but the trade had been done this morning. And that's another weird one. Is Brassard was kind of a player that the Panthers kind of expected to stick around. This trade was a little weird when it came out. People kind of expected this wouldn't happen, as the Panthers, with their resurgence last year, Brassard looked like one of the candidates that would do well. Now, the Avalanche are getting a draft pick in the next 2 years for this, so the Avalanche aren't losing much. They're getting the better of the deal, definitely here. Now, this is another one where there's some draft picks. This isn't the only deal the Devils did. And you know what they say about dealing with the devil. Something completely different in hockey, I'll tell you that. So, Marcus Johansson is going to Boston, and the Devils, I don't know if the season's over for them. They made some weird trades today. We'll get to another one in a minute. The Bruins gave away a couple picks. One that'll do very well for, actually they probably will both do well for the Devils. They were both going to be high in the draft, as if you know how they reverse order per round. Both of them are probably going to be slightly high because the Bruins are one of the better teams in the league. So having a second round pick next in June here, and then the next year, if the Bruins keep it up, they'll have another high pick. So Devils probably have some draft artillery, and the Bruins are probably just going to do what they can with Johansson, hopefully make a long playoff run. So another weird trade. Another longtime player, just like Zuccarello, Adam McQuaid, has been traded to the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets made a ton of deals recently that include getting Matt Duchene and Ryan Dzingel from the Senators, both of them. Now they're playing again together. Now, the Rangers are receiving Julius Bergman, who is a Swedish prospect. I don't know if he's ever made any NHL debut. I don't believe he has. But he is a prospect that the Rangers could utilize in the rebuild right now. So McQuaid, a longtime player, dealt away in the Rangers organization again, just like teammate Zuccarello, who's now playing for the Stars. We'll get back to Zuccarello in a minute. So another trade. These are kind of a lesser important trade. I won't discredit them at all, but still they are a lower tier than a lot of the deals here. So Jordan Weal, he's been with the Coyotes for a couple of years. He's being dealt to Montreal. Montreal and Arizona made a couple deals earlier in the season before all the deadline rush here. So Chaput for the Canadians. He's only been there for a couple of years, just like Weal, and they're trading him away, and we should see how that one goes. Now, a trade that I was questionable about when I read about Kevin Hayes, the Rangers player, has been there for a couple of years, dealt to Winnipeg. Winnipeg's trading Lemieux, who's been on the team for 4 or 5 years. He's been, I believe, all his career with the Jets. Now, at first, I was a little frustrated because I follow the Jets a bit. They're one of my favorite teams, and I was a little confused as to why this deal was being done when they could have been going for Mark Stone, which we'll get to in a minute. There's a lot to cover today. I was worried that they were going to lose out on Mark Stone, which they did. The Jets didn't match it, but I think it's just that the Jets didn't put in enough bid, as you're going to see in a minute, for Stone. so they dealt with the Rangers and got a forward in exchange for a forward. So I think the Rangers actually got the better of the deal. Lemieux has been consistent, not one of the highest scorers on the team, but there's a lot of guys above him just out of natural skill and ability over Lemieux. So I would say the Rangers won this deal. But we can see what Hayes does, because I feel like the Jets are going to make a long playoff run this year. They got far last year, farther than expected. So we'll see how they do this year. Now, moving on, this is another strange trade, with the Blue Jackets coming up on top in this one. So Keith Kincaid, probably the only saving grace that the Devils have had this season. This is why earlier I kind of prefaced this with them saying that the Devils are probably done for this season. Is that Kincaid has been getting the wins for the Devils. Okay, so Schneider just now got his first wins of the season within the last week or two, as he finally got a win after over a year without one. So I would not trust Schneider in this position, coming this close to the end of the season. The Blue Jackets are definitely, I think the Blue Jackets overall have won the trade deadline for sure. So not only do they have a solid backup for their already existing backup, Keith Kincaid will be with the Blue Jackets. Now, one thing I did when I first saw this, because this was done in the morning, there was still time between the 3 p.m. deadline for the trade deadline, where I kind of thought that, okay, this opens the door for the Blue Jackets to trade away Bobrovsky, because if they have a backup already and they have Kincaid, they can get a good goaltending staff already and then not have to deal with Bobrovsky and his contract problems at the end of the season. But that didn't happen. Bobrovsky is still safe after all of that. So Kincaid is just joining the Blue Jackets, and the Devils are going to have to wait a little bit for their end of the deal to come through. 2022, they're getting a 5th-round draft pick. I don't know if this is really even at all. Blue Jackets definitely won another trade. So now moving on, this is done at, I think, like 12 in the morning. It's kind of weird. So the Sharks and Red Wings actually played yesterday. Sharks won 5-3 in Detroit. So Gustav Nyquist was traded to the Sharks, and the Red Wings received 2 draft picks. So they received a pick in 2019, which will probably be good, because with the draft order, the Sharks are one of the best teams in the league currently. I think they're 2nd or 3rd in the entire league behind Tampa Bay. And this 2nd-round pick would be perfect, as it's going to be a high pick in the order. Now, they have a conditional 2020 pick for the 3rd round, so we're going to have to see how that one works out in the coming years. But Nyquist left with the Sharks last night, not the Red Wings. Kind of interesting how that works, kind of like how in Columbus they made a deal when the Senators were playing, as we talked about already a couple episodes ago. So now moving on, as we were talking about Mark Stone and the Jets, I remember seeing the Jets actually started a chant, "We want Stone," is what they were saying. Unfortunately, I don't think they put up enough of a bid, and the Senators decided to go with Vegas, who had been trying to get it secured for over a week, fighting with the Jets. So the Senators are receiving Oscar Lindberg and a prospect player who's been up and down between the NHL and AHL, Eric Brandstrom. So he's been with Vegas all his career, the only 2 years that Vegas has been around. Lindberg has had a couple years more than that, and he'll be over in Ottawa. So they're also were willing to give up a 2nd-round pick in 2020, so that's 2 years away. But if they're still a very good team, then it's going to be another draft pick, as I've talked about previously. It'll be high in the draft list. So Stone from the Senators is dealt to Vegas. Now, I'm going to get skeptical. Well, not skeptical. It's kind of obvious at this point. Is that Senators are probably losing for Hughes. Let's just say it. Senators already dealt Duchesne to Columbus, Dzingel to Columbus, and now Stone to Vegas. So their leading scorers are all gone for the most part. I think that leaves Tkachuk as their best scorer. So 3 guys ahead of him, who's a rookie, now in other places. So if Ottawa doesn't end up with the 1st-round draft pick, then this is all probably for a waste. This is the perfect opportunity, and I'm sure this is actually what they're meaning to do. The season's less than 20 games left for them, so now would be the perfect time to start losing more, just so you secure that first draft pick. So if they don't end up with it, then this has all been for nothing. I know the Kings are, I think, 6 points ahead of them. So as long as Ottawa doesn't play hard, they should secure the first draft pick because they're in last currently. So now the big deal of the day. This has been expected pretty much the entire trade rumor since December, I would say. Wayne Simmonds has been the talk of the town for months as to whether he was going to be traded or not from Philadelphia. He's been with Philadelphia, I believe, like 8 years. He started with LA, and his contract was ending at the end of this season, so it was under speculation that the Flyers were going to try to get rid of him. And just before the deadline, and I think it was like 2:50, 3 o'clock was the deadline, the Predators and Flyers announced a deal. Is that Wayne Simmonds was being traded to the Nashville Predators, which is kind of not expected. The trade talk had never been disclosed as to what teams were interested in him. A couple teams have said they were, but as we can see, the Predators put up the best bid, and the Flyers will be receiving Ryan Hartman. So Simmonds has been, I think, a fan favorite in Philadelphia, so I'm sure a lot of people don't want to see him go, but it probably is the best for the organization with all the money problems and the contract dispute that was going to happen, as he was expected to be a free agent at the end of the season. So now the Predators have to deal with it. I don't know if they gave him an extension today or what the plan is with that. Hartman, I think, is in the same boat. His contract's low from now. So we'll have to see how that one goes. Now, looking forward for the Predators, Predators are already one of the better teams in the league right now. And I don't know why, but I feel like Simmonds will fit well with the Predators. He's a very no-nonsense player, and he's a fast skater. He scores goals. He gets in everybody's way. He would fit well with the way the Predators play. If you look at guys like Subban and Yossi, they played the same way as Simmonds, I believe. Simmonds a little more aggressive, but he should fit right in, and I believe that he'll be a valuable asset in playoffs for the Predators. So before I get into the news, I did want to mention Simmonds was the only guy that I really thought was going to be traded. I also thought Artemi Panarin, the Blue Jackets are making tons of deals. I was kind of expecting eventually it would come through because there's so many coming in and out and in and out. But no, Panarin staying put in Columbus. I also thought that Jimmy Howard of the Red Wings would be traded, as his contract is up at the end of the season. He spent his entire career thus far with Detroit, so we'll have to see how that goes before or during the offseason for him. Okay, now moving into our news is our news bloop of about Matt Zuccarello, who's been on the Stars for a day or two. So first of all, good for him. He scored his first goal with the Stars, but then he also was injured in his first game with the Stars. So he walked out, I think, second period with a broken right arm. So he's expected to miss 4 or 5 weeks and get reevaluated, as he's currently on the injured reserve. So unfortunate for him, as he just started new in Dallas. So hopefully, if Dallas maintains the way they are, they can probably make playoffs, and Zuccarello can be ready for that, as he'll probably be ready mid or late March, right before the playoff run. So now moving on to our game to watch is between the Oilers and Predators. So the Oilers are on their second game of 2 without Captain McDavid, who is currently suspended for an illegal hit on Nick Leddy of the Islanders, I believe, during the weekend. Or before the weekend. And the Predators, as we know, have made a couple moves today. They have Fiala and Simmonds on the way. I don't know if either of them are there to play in this game, but the Predators are probably a little different in the locker room regardless, knowing they got some new guys on the way. And unfortunately, Ryan Hartman, one of the longtime players, is on the move away from them, and they're awaiting new players. So Nashville is at home. Oilers traveling from Edmonton over the weekend. They played Anaheim. So don't know what to expect really from this game. Oilers probably, as they just barely won on Saturday, 2-1 over the Ducks. They're ready to score again. They got guys like Nugent Hopkins and Draisaitl to rely on for scoring without McDavid, who play on the same line as him. And then the Predators obviously have their core too. So we'll have to see how this one pans out in the near future and the contingencies with it. As we already discussed, McDavid not in the lineup for the Oilers, and then Predators varying a bit with the new trades that they're dealing with. So now moving on to stats, we actually remain the same. Kucherov has 100 points and Ovechkin has 44 goals. Kucherov also has 70 assists. Maybe he can get some more soon. So plus minus is actually a three-way tie right now. So Mark Giordano, who has been the longtime leader of plus minus, is tied at a plus 30 with teammate Mikael Backlund, as you see here. He's had the longest here. Ron Hainsey of the Maple Leafs is also at a plus 30, so it's contested right now. We might see a change there. So now, for goalies, goals against average, after a shutout a couple nights ago, Robin Lehner has a 207 goals against average, very good. Vasilevsky and Lehner actually tied for save percentage at 93.1. Vasilevsky's maintained it longer, and Lehner just now got his up. So that's the leaderboard as it stands. Goalie wins. Fleury still looking for a win, hopefully soon with the new trades in his locker room. Hopefully he can shake things up and he'll get a win again. 6 shutouts currently contested with Vasilevsky above him, both at 6 currently. So maybe we'll see more of that before the end of the season. He's been sitting at 6 for a while. He's also been sitting at 29 wins for a while, so hopefully we'll see some changes in those soon. So I know this is a long episode and it's a lot to pack in, but I want to thank you guys for sticking around this long. Really appreciate the viewership and everything you guys do for us. So if you're new to the channel and you like videos like this, do hit the subscribe button. We do videos like this every day. And I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. It really means a lot that you stuck around this long, and we hope to see you again.